What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football home over at fakepigskin.com. I'm your host, Kyle Robert. You can follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me tonight, it's Ron the Mad Dog McCleese. What's up, Mad Dog?
Hey, how's it going, bud? It's great to be back. Monday night football is on. It's kind of hard to stay concentrated here on the show, but yeah, it was a good week, and I can't believe that we're headed to week 13. Some pretty big performances yesterday. Some big time performances on Sunday Night Football. So we were just kind of talking about that before we came on, and just having to go up against Julio Jones and then Antonio Brown was just like the kind of nail in the coffin yesterday for me in a couple leagues where I could have clinched for my playoff spot, but now I got to fight it out, I should say.
Nice to see the elite receivers step up and remind us that they are the elite receivers and for a reason, and they had some monster performances. If you had Julio or Antonio Brown in your lineups and didn't win, like, I'm sorry. They gave you a big advantage. Keenan Allen was right there with them. He was amazing. There was some incredible performances. Question is, how did your turkey performance go? Did you fill up your plate? Did you get enough food on over the course of about 4 days?
Yeah, I was helping my sister. We made the best stuffing possibly ever for the family, and it was really good. So I got plenty of fixins. I still have like turkey just by the boatloads left over from our feast. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and my house was just like torn apart by my two nephews and my son. Just
I'll do that.
Crazy.
I was telling you I had three total Thanksgiving dinners between a Friendsgiving and two family ones. So I had plenty of turkey. I'm kind of over turkey, and honestly, I don't know if turkey's really that good. Like, the sides are good. You put gravy on it, it's good. But kind of by itself, it's just, it's okay. It's whatever. But we're not here to talk turkey. We're here to talk about the turkeys on the field. We got a couple news and notes. We're going to talk about some guys if we should be holding them, because this is going to be kind of a playoff focus. The playoffs are either here for your league. They're rapidly approaching. So we'll talk about some schedules, some stuff to pay attention to, and all that good stuff. So we'll start with Michael Crabtree. Him and Aqib Talib were at it again. Had another brawl. I was even reading that Michael Crabtree kind of taped his chain down to avoid Aqib Talib from trying to rip it off, and it still wasn't enough. He ripped it off. They had a fight. They are both suspended for the next 2 games per Adam Schefter. Obviously, they could appeal that, and I expect him to, and it probably gets taken down to 1. But, the Raiders could be without Crabtree and Amari Cooper this week, who is dealing with a concussion. If you're a Derek Carr owner, I think you need to look at that waiver wire and lay a few claims on some guys with some good matchups.
Yeah, I mean, it's an unfortunate thing because, I mean, most of the time, I mean, you look at Crabtree, you think he can, know that he's going to have that matchup. There's going to be that history between these two guys, and for that to happen, I mean, just take the damn chains off Crabtree. I mean, you're willing to like risk that and know that that's going to, one thing's going to lead to another. The next thing you know, 2 games, yeah, that seems a little excessive to me. Obviously, not knowing everything that was said back and forth, or what.
Well,
exactly
yeah,
went on.
And it happened like literally, like it was within the first couple minutes of the game starting. So, like, man, that does feel a little rough.
Yeah, it sucks getting a goose egg. Let me tell you, from any position.
Yeah, definitely. Seth Roberts is a guy that if you're in deeper leagues could make sense, especially if Cooper and Crabtree miss. Jared Cook probably gets a little bump, and we get a little more Marshawn Lynch likely. So. Something to think about as you're making those waiver claims. Greg Olsen came back this week. Looked like it was looking okay and re-injured that foot. They said he avoided serious injury. He's kind of saying he's going to be okay, but I don't know, Ron. Is he a guy that if you own Olsen, you're going to feel okay with? Or, I mean, the tight end position hasn't been pretty, but at the same time, like, can you really trust putting this guy in your lineup and having him miss time or having him, play for a couple snaps, realizing that his foot's not okay and having to come out, kind of what are you doing if you own Greg Olsen?
Well, you definitely want to have a backup plan. I mean, I'm not cutting Greg Olsen. I'm
Right.
going to see how this rides out. I think he'll be fine, but if he plays this week, maybe it's limited snaps. So you have to be cognizant of that and kind of, it's one of those high risk, high reward plays where it could pay off just given a small amount of snaps. If he's getting like a few red zone targets and, he produces a touchdown for you, then he's all money. But I think you got to kind of pair him with, another tight end like maybe a Hunter Henry or someone else that definitely not Cameron Brate because that Cameron Brate thing's over, I think.
That ship has
Um,
sailed.
oh, totally. But or definitely not your Kobe Fleener type either. But maybe an OJ Howard. Seriously, I mean, at this point,
It
we've
seems
seen
like it's
chemistry.
really it seems like it's really shifted there in Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have that Hunter Henry like type of impact here late in the season for the Buccaneers. I mean, they need some kind of spark right now, so that's another interesting tight end for me. But I think the talk of the town is in Indy with the tight end situation there.
Yeah, Jackie Doyle. He's just been
He's for
amazing.
real.
He's been really good, and Brissett looks solid. And you know where you don't have to worry about tight end injuries, Ron? It's with our friends over at Draft. Fantasy sports fans, listen up. Do you know that your chance of winning on Draft is 80% better than most salary cap sites? I did a little DraftKings, a little FanDuel this weekend. I didn't win. Played some Draft. Sure, I won over there. It's a lot more fun. Obviously, you get to pick and choose positions. You can avoid tight end completely. You can draft a quarterback, two running backs, two receivers. Not worry about the mess that is tight end. Not worry about injuries. Not worry about if you're season long leagues. You're not thinking about the playoffs. This is an opportunity to play for some real cash. More than 1 million people have already downloaded Draft. If you haven't, download Draft. iTunes, Google Play, whatever. Use the promo code FakePigskin or go to playdraft.com/FakePigskin on your computer. You can sign up there, enter our promo code. You get a free real money entry into a draft. You can play NBA tonight, tomorrow. You can play football this weekend. There's all kinds of stuff. Plus, if you deposit $5, we get a little email, and we'll send you a year subscription to Fake Pigskin's Elite service, all of our DFS content. We got tons of fantasy hoop stuff coming out. We'll have fantasy baseball stuff around the corner. It seems like it just ended, but it'll be back before we know it. And you'll get all of our off-season content as well as our rankings and all that good stuff as the season approaches next year. So you can start thinking about Dynasty. And Ron and I will have that covered. We'll have your draft covered. We'll have so much good stuff on there. So sign up, hang out, and win some money on draft. Let's go through. I'm going to go through some names that people are talking about, names that are kind of, we're in consideration where, with playoffs approaching, we have to make some serious decisions. And, do we want to hang on to guys that we've been holding on to all season? Do we want to, waste roster spots on guys that may not come back or are underperforming? So let's run through a few names, and then we'll talk about, kind of the playoff schedules and all that good stuff. So Aaron Rodgers buzz is building. A lot of people are really excited about the potential return of Aaron Rodgers. They're saying, oh, well, he could come back and, this and that. Is he a guy that if you have Andy Dalton, you have Alex Smith, who we're going to get to, if you have, obviously if you have a stud quarterback already, but, is he a guy that you're interested in holding it for a potential week 15, week 16 return?
He is just given what we saw last night, I think, from the Packers. Even though they lost that game, I think Brett Hundley showed enough. I mean, by all rights, they should have won that game, and their numbers kind of, on the box score look a lot better. So, they have some matchups coming up, with Tampa Bay and Cleveland in the next 2 weeks. I think those are two winnable games. Then they put themselves maybe back in the playoff picture, maybe as a wild card. And week 15 at Carolina. So that would be when Rodgers would be eligible to play. So I definitely think his chances of playing would have been a lot better had they won last night. But realistically, I mean, if they can just win out the season, you never know what can happen. So I think that if Aaron Rodgers can play, I think they're going to get him in there. And if they haven't been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, why wouldn't they bring Aaron Rodgers back week 15 on the road against Carolina? I mean, he's already thrown the ball like 50 yards, unleashing it, in practice right now. So
Yeah.
there's no doubt he'll be ready to go you know, if necessary. But I mean, I guess I can see it. If you're still fighting for a playoff spot and you need that roster spot, then it depends on who's out there. But
Yeah, I
in
guess
most
it.
cases, if I'm a contender, I'm holding.
Yeah, it really depends on your team and well, where you're at. I don't really love it. I have concerns that he comes back at Carolina. Maybe it doesn't go so well. He comes back versus Minnesota. The Vikings have a really good secondary. The Detroit matchup at Week 17 is interesting. Um, I don't know. I guess I don't hate it, but I assume that if my team is good enough, if I have Jared Goff, if I have Ben Roethlisberger, if I have Kirk Cousins, if I have Matt Ryan, like I'm not benching any of those guys for Aaron Rodgers. So if your team is awesome and you're just streaming and dreaming every week at quarterback, and I mean you're running Jacoby Brissett and Andy Dalton and Blake Bortles out there, like I don't hate the idea of bringing Rodgers back because even if Rodgers underperforms, he's probably playing at that level. So I mean I get it, but if you can avoid it, if you have a decent option, I don't think I'm wasting a roster spot.
At the same time, Kyle, if you're a contender, why not, basically cock block your owner, play
Yeah.
defense here and pick up Aaron Rodgers if you have that roster spot. Like I dropped Devontae Booker. I didn't need him, wasn't going to start him just to stash Rodgers. So, I don't regret that yet. Maybe I
Yeah.
will later, but I
Yeah,
mean, just as an example.
I only added him on one team, and it was a team that I've been
Hmm.
desperate at quarterback, and I think is kind of coming into form and is ready to make a big playoff run. And I have, I was holding like Mike Gillislee and some other guys that hadn't seen the field in weeks, so I didn't mind doing it. If you have deep enough benches, if you're holding guys that you think can be useful, I'm not dropping anybody useful to pick up Rodgers. I got to give some love to Devontae Adams. I was so wrong on him. He's been awesome, and even with Brett Hundley, like he's been a top 20 wide receiver over the last 4 weeks, even with Brett Hundley under center. So, props to him. What about David Johnson? This is a guy that I know we talked about maybe coming back around Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's come and gone. I'm holding him in some leagues, kind of regretting it in others. If you have the IR, obviously, and he's your IR guy, like no brainer, keep him. But if you're looking at your final roster spot and you're saying, my quarterback position's weak, I'm okay at running back, I don't think David Johnson comes back this year, like would you drop David Johnson to pick up Aaron Rodgers?
If my quarterback situation was putrid and I was pretty strong in every other position, and I mean, if you're if you've already clinched a spot or you're really close to clinching it, then that tells me that the rest of your team has been pretty good and you've been able to, still, make that push without David Johnson. So you could probably do without him, but again, well, what's the probability of him coming back? I think, if the Cardinals lose the next 2-3 games, I mean,
Well,
it's over.
I mean, if
So
Blaine Gabbert's your starting quarterback, I mean, they're headed to the Super Bowl at this point. So,
I mean, they have the Rams up this week. Tennessee Titans, your Tennessee Titans, week 14
my number
at
3
Washington, week
AFC
15.
team, baby, let's go.
I mean, really, this schedule's pretty soft the rest of the year, and from the fantasy, weeks 14 through 16 look pretty juicy. So, yeah, I mean, the probability of him coming back is probably pretty slim.
Yeah, I honestly don't think we'll see him at the same time. Um, you know, especially the way the running back is right now, just the massive amounts of injury week to week. I don't hate the idea of holding it if you can do it. If you need help and you're, adding an extra defense for the playoffs, if you're adding, you know, other pieces, like I think it's fine to drop him. I don't.
Are you're cutting him for Peyton Barber then?
No, I'm cutting him for Quiz Rogers.
Quiz.
We'll talk about the waiver wire here in a second, but yeah, Quiz Rogers I think is the guy. I know Peyton Barber got both touchdowns, but he had like 9 carries and 2 touchdowns or something crazy. I think it's time to say goodbye to C.J. Anderson, Ron. I think, I loved him coming in, and he's actually been healthy. It's not like it's just been that offense is a mess, and Jamal Charles and Devontae Booker and C.J. Anderson all get little bits of the pie, and it just the offense isn't good enough. There's not enough. There's not enough volume. I don't know that you can own any Broncos running back kind of at this point. I know it's ugly, but like as you said, like if Doug Martin's out this week, I'd play Jacquizz Rodgers over all three Broncos running backs.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you have to be realistic about, the Denver Broncos and all of their offensive pieces on that team. As far as from the fantasy perspective, it's a big gamble starting any of these guys. The backfield's a mess. I mean, Devontae Booker might be the most talented. I mean, he's played the best, but it's going to be a committee, no matter what, it seems like. And C.J. Anderson is still going to be somewhat involved, even when he's losing snaps, which he has, in past weeks. So it's trending in the wrong direction for C.J. Anderson. He was definitely a guy I would plan on my bench. I was planning on my bench like the last couple of weeks as it was, but it's unfortunate. But that offense is stuck in neutral. I mean, I don't think they've ever got off the runway, to be honest with you. But Trevor Siemian's back as starter this week, so you got to feel a little more optimistic, Kyle. Here, come on, about Demaryius Thomas.
He came in, got 2 touchdowns. That was great to see. It's pretty sad that obviously Siemian's the best quarterback there. Not saying much when Paxton Lynch and Brock Osweiler are your competition, but definitely
the revolving door continues to revolve, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm honestly ready for like either John Elway or Peyton Manning to come running out on the field in like week 17. Oh my God, that's Peyton Manning's music, and he just like. Chicken parm, you taste so good, and he comes running onto the field. Are you dropping the all the Broncos running backs for Rex Burkhead?
At this point, yes. I mean, I feel pretty confident that Rex he's earned that role, and he's earned that over the past 3 or 4 weeks, and he's been really good. So he's earned more snaps, he's getting them, and he's scoring touchdowns. So he's definitely a guy. I think. The fact of trust and Bill Belichick just really don't go together. But, I mean, you have to look at the numbers and what he's doing, and he has a role. So I'm sticking with Burkhead.
Yep. He's playing a good bit. He only trailed Dion Lewis by 1 touch this week. So things are looking good. I think Burkhead's a move guy would make. Like I said, Jacquizz Rodgers I like. Deeper leagues, Peyton Barber makes sense. I'd drop him for Austin Eckler, who is getting about 40% of the snaps. Has been pretty solid with his work, and it is a guy that if you need work, I think could make sense. And Ron, I want to throw a name out. Are you interested in James Conner at all? We've seen the rash of injuries, and if we're holding a guy that could fall into a ton of volume, it seems like Conner could be one of those guys.
Well, Conner's really interesting for me in like my keeper and dynasty leagues, because I feel like with Le'Veon Bell's contract, the way it's basically structured, where he's basically done after this year.
Yeah, I could see
him.
So
that's kind of optimistic.
I know they love him. I know he does a lot for that offense, but like, would it shock you if Le'Veon Bell's the starting running back for like Tampa Bay next year, or
oh God,
or like
honestly, no, it wouldn't. It wouldn't shock me one bit.
Yeah.
I believe, at this point, the rookie contract's going to be up, and he's going to want to get paid. He deserves to be paid like the best running back in football, because that's who he is. So, I mean, he's going to want the money, and I think he'll just go to the highest bidder. And I can't say that the Steelers, maybe they'll just decide to bow out of the bidding early, because it's going to be a lot. But
I'm really
Connor,
go ahead.
To answer your question though, with Connor, I'm on Connor in redraft too, from the perspective that, again, if you have an extra bench spot to kind of burn on a high upside kind of like stash, given an injury to Bell, which we've seen the running back landscape and one go after and down after another. So, I mean, especially if you have Le'Veon Bell, the handcuff makes even more sense.
Yeah, and this is the time of year where handcuffs are a lot more valuable. And if you're a team heading into the playoffs and you have Lev Bell, if you have one of the studs, I think you need to look at their handcuff and make sure you're rostering them, because obviously they won't give you 100% of the value, but if you get 70%, I think you'd be pretty happy. We could honestly, I'm really curious to see what the Steelers do. We could be sitting here next year talking about Ben Roethlisberger retired, Le'Veon Bell playing somewhere else, and they've maybe Kirk Cousins is their quarterback. Maybe they drafted another guy, or they brought in James Conner's the feature back there. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, but given how good they've been and how I think they won what's like 6 in a row right now, so they're on
Yeah,
a
they're
streak
nine.
right now.
They're 9-2, but like I don't think they're that good. Like they struggle with Indy, they struggle with Green Bay. Like I think their schedule's making them look a little bit better than they are, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean the schedule's definitely been a decent one for them, and they've had some tough matchups, and they've underperformed against some teams they definitely should have beat on the road, like my Bears. But
Hmm.
it is what it is. I think the defense still has holes. I mean, kind of showed that last night against the Packers. So,
Yep.
um, but realistically, I think if they can make a deep run, why not try and keep the team together one more year? If Big Ben can kind of muscle, you know, get out there for another year because he's taking a beating and he'll continue to take a beating.
Yeah. I want to talk about Marshawn Lynch. Obviously, who mentioned that the running back landscape is not a pretty one. Um, and the Raiders will probably be without Crabtree at least this week, if not next. Probably be without Amari Cooper, who's dealing with concussion. Um, is Marshawn Lynch a guy that we're gonna probably have to play just because of volume? I mean, on Sunday he had 26 carries, but he only got 67 yards, but found 2 touchdowns. Like, I think he's a guy that we're just gonna have to play and just hope that he gets in the end zone.
Yeah, I mean the two plunges in the end zone definitely made that an underwhelming stat line look really good. And in fantasy, we don't really care as long as you're scoring touchdowns. So yeah, I think at this point the matchups are kind of key. He had a decent matchup this past week against Denver, but it's more about that volume that you were talking about that makes him a guy that you legitimately need to start thinking about playing week in and week out. Especially this week, the Giants are up next. You get them at home at Kansas City. Dallas, that should be a nice matchup, and
Mm-hmm.
then finish it out against at Philly, Week
Yep.
16. So I'm down.
Another guy getting volume that is probably going to be a have to play is Jamal Williams. Um, it'll be curious to see if Ty Montgomery comes back this week or next, and kind of how much volume he'll get. But Williams, another guy, 21 carries, 66 yards, found the end zone twice, one via the pass, one via the run. He's still available in about 40% of Yahoo leagues. If you're a running back needy team and he's floating around your waiver wire with Tampa, Cleveland, Carolina, Minnesota the next 4 weeks, is he a guy that you're picking up?
I mean, there's no way in hell he should be on any waiver wire at this point. I needed to go pick him up right now if he's out there because he's getting that volume. And they've shown, again, I brought up the matchups the next 2 weeks. They have some prime matchups. I think the most surprising thing about Jamal Williams has kind of been his passing game, the involvement in the passing game. And he's caught 13 to 16 targets so far this year, coming out of BYU, not known as a running back that catch the ball a lot out of the backfield. So wasn't something he was asked to do. But, yeah, in the past 2 weeks, he's had 8 receptions. So, I mean, I think that bodes well for him. Again, moving forward, he's going to continue to get that volume. But yeah, Ty Montgomery, I don't think they're going to rush him back. I don't think there's any reason to. Even if he was active, I have a feeling they would just kind of like sprinkle him in.
Yeah, and over the next couple weeks, Jordy Nelson, I think, is a guy as much as it hurts to say, needs to be cut. 3 catches for 11, 2 for 24, 3 for 20, 4 for 35 the last 4 weeks. I love Jordy Nelson. I think he'll be a star. I think he'll be great when Rodgers comes back. But I guess, or is Jordy a guy you're holding in hopes that Rodgers comes back and they kind of work up that spark again?
Again, I think it depends on your situation. I mean, if you're fighting, you need that spot, to even make the playoffs, then okay, depends on who you're cutting him for. But at this stage in the season, I'm going to say I'm probably holding him, especially if I'm a contender. I've already clinched. There's no reason to cut him just because if Rodgers does come back, then you're going to have him for your semifinals and championship matchup. So you have to think long term, even though it is redraft from that perspective. I'm holding him probably on most teams if I had him.
Yeah, yeah. If you can hold him, I guess do it. But he's definitely not somebody that I'm
Tampa
making.
Bay and Cleveland. Tampa Bay and Cleveland next 2 weeks. Something's got to
Yeah,
give.
Tampa Bay and Cleveland, but also freaking no catches, no he's just not a part of what Brett Hundley does well. And I mean, even Randall Cobb had a big game this week. Would you drop Jordy Nelson to pick up your boy Zay Jones?
Oh, you had to do that to me.
Well, let me just give it to you
I'm
this way,
not going.
Ron.
I'm not going to that level yet.
He had
Go
10
on.
targets on Sunday, only caught 3 of them for 30 yards. Yeah, he got a touchdown, so that's good, but
How many of those targets were catchable though?
a lot. Tyrod's
I don't know the number.
Tyrod's a good quarterback. Tyrod's just fine.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm still holding Jordy over Zay Jones, but I do like Zay Jones now that I mean, he's getting the targets. As long as Tyrod's there, I think he's still gonna, he'll find the end zone.
Yeah. Are you picking up Josh Gordon?
No, not at all.
Um,
I'm not enticed at all.
all I'm gonna say is you can drop Corey Davis. It's not happening this year. I really wanted it to
Ooh,
happen. The Rashard Matthews wasn't there this week. I thought it would happen. Um, we're going to talk about Marcus Mariota here in a second. I think Mariota's done as like a fantasy option, and they just don't throw the ball enough. So if Corey Davis is on your roster and you need to drop somebody for help, I'm perfectly fine doing it. What about Jordan
wow.
Reed? Yeah, I said it. What's up?
Coming from a Titans fan, it's got to be hard to say.
Yeah.
Did your like mouth or throat like burn as you were saying that? But I'm
I,
with you. I mean, it's tough because I actually threw him out there in one of my lineups last week, and I didn't really feel great about it. But I thought, yeah, that's the same thing you did. He's
mm,
going to have to get all these volume now. The targets are going to be there.
I played
Matthews,
him in
big scratch.
DFS. I play him in a bunch of
Ugh.
leagues, and yeah, it did not work well for me.
They need some more time to kind of build that relationship. I think that's pretty obvious.
Are you
But
buying
Mariota, yeah,
are you buying
kick Mariota to the curb.
yeah, are you buying the Martavis Bryant return if Juju misses another week?
Bad juju, man. It's been bad juju for a couple weeks because no juju is bad juju. And yeah, I'm buying Martavis Bryant. You know why? Because he's getting the red zone targets. We've seen at least 2 in the last 2 games, and he could have easily probably caught 3 of those. All 3 of them. He only had the 1 touchdown grab last night. So still, as long as he's getting those opportunities, he's going to gain Big Ben's trust back, and I think he's already done that. So
Yeah.
he's converting those, and Big Ben's he's trying to get the ball to him, and that's pretty obvious if you're watching the game. So Juju's questionable for Week 13, so I say full speed ahead with Martavis Bryant. I think that's another guy that's could be one of those end of season type risers where he could help you if you were fortunate enough. I picked him up in one of my keeper leagues last week where he was dropped, and just to stash him, and it worked out pretty well. I'll be dropping Corey Davis in that league.
Pretty good. Let's talk about Jordan Reed. He hasn't played in 4 straight weeks. The expectation is he'll probably play this week on Thursday. But even when he's played outside, he had the big game against Philly where he was 8 for 64 and 2 touchdowns. Other than that, he's been really underwhelming. Is he a guy that if you have better options at tight end that you're fine cutting?
Better options at tight end. Shoot. I mean,
Yeah, I
it's a
know
thin
though.
pool. It's a thin pool to choose from, and it's been skimmed and scavenged, and there's really nothing left. I mean, he's Jordan Reed, but at this point, I think this being a Thursday night game that they're playing the Cowboys, this is one of those games where I could see him coming back and just completely just killing and making you wish that you had never thought about dropping him. So for me, I'm holding him until Thursday, and then once we hear something one way or the other, if he's playing, I'm definitely holding out some hope. But if he doesn't play this week, I think it's time to go ahead and cut bait.
It's just hilarious to me
And,
that Jordan Reed is owned in 63% of leagues on Yahoo, and Vernon Davis is owned in 78% of leagues.
and Vernon Davis didn't do anything
No.
yesterday either. I mean, or Thursday, I should say.
Yeah.
He didn't do one thing. So it's like I don't know. I think those targets are getting soaked up by Crowder right now, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's man, tight end is so pathetic. Like Charles Clay is kind of interesting. Tyler Croft is kind of interesting. Back-to-back touchdowns, but like that's what we're talking about. So maybe Jordan
I
needs
feel
a
like
whole.
dirty. I feel like dirty having this conversation. I'm gonna have to go
Yeah.
take a shower after this show.
Let's talk about the stretch run. I want to talk some position by position. So we're looking at 14, 15, and 16. Damien and I will be back on Wednesday to talk about week 13, but I wanted to kind of use this as a jumping off point. So I was looking at the quarterback position for the best schedules, and this is over, thanks to our friends over at Scout Fantasy. They have a sweet little chart that you can kind of go through and look at it. But so the number one quarterback schedule is Buffalo, which my boy Tyrod, if he's playing down the stretch,
Ty God.
could be a real nice play. And
So you're saying there's a chance for my Zay Jones shares?
well, I don't know about that, but well,
See, I'm seeing the silver lining here. I'm
I
picking
don't,
up on what you're throwing out.
I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I know it wasn't great this week, but New England, Indy, Miami, New England, Miami. The next 5 weeks, I think you have a real good shot at, at least a safe floor and definitely some upside. Obviously has the rushing ability that makes a lot of sense. So, if you're in need of like if you're looking at I need a quarterback, like I'd rather I just keep Tyrod and know that I'm going to get him the rest of the week than pick up Aaron Rodgers and hope.
Yeah, I mean, you have a guarantee in one hand and one that's a big question mark in the other hand. So I think that's a pretty easy decision if you're, depending on if you don't have any depth at quarterback, then those are your decisions. Then it's definitely Tyrod, Ty God.
Mm-hmm.
Philip Rivers, I mean, that's a guy that should be universally owned, but believe it or not, what is it, like 60 or 70% owned in ESPN leagues? I know he's been a guy that's been floating out there.
Yeah, he's 82% owned in Yahoo, so he's about 18%, which is I don't know, seems about right. Where's LAC on here?
Should spike after this past week, you would think,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. LAC, that's running backs. Chargers. Yeah, so the Chargers have an amazing schedule. If Phil Rivers is floating around, you should be running to your waiver wire and blowing all your fob.
66.8 on ESPN, Kyle.
That's insane. They have Cleveland, Washington, Kansas City, the Jets, and the Raiders. We saw obviously 434 yards and 3 touchdowns against Dallas, but it was back-to-back about 250 and 2 touchdowns in 2 straight games. So, yeah, Rivers is definitely...
Don't remind me, Kyle. I started Cam Newton over Rivers and lost because of it. So
yeah,
kind of
yeah, that was real dumb.
Cam love.
It's funny because I'm looking at the schedule and none of these matchups, like, so the number 2 quarterback is Jacksonville, which I don't hate Blake Bortles, especially if you're in a deeper league. I think could be interesting, especially with Fournette kind of struggling down the stretch. Arizona, if you want to go with Blaine Gabbert, like good luck. I don't hate I don't hate Eli Manning, especially if Sterling Shepard can get back, and they have one of the toughest running game matchups down the stretch, so could be a lot of Eli and could be a lot of yards.
I got a hot take for you, Kyle. I'm going Kaiser over Gabbert. Really hot take. Rest of the
season. Yeah, good luck with that. Cleveland has
crazy.
Cleveland has the 4th toughest quarterback schedule, so that's I love Deshaun Kaiser, but good luck.
But your boy Josh Gordon, Flash Gordon's coming back. You got Corey Coleman getting healthy.
Yeah.
Those tight ends. Sure. I like it, man.
Sure. New Orleans, they have a top 5 option for quarterbacks. They're the 20th toughest defense opponent. Do you think maybe we see a little more Breezes and a little less Kamara / Mark Ingram?
No. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Continue to do what you're doing. Sean Payton's got that blueprint, and it's working perfectly. So continue to keep, just letting that run game just take that pressure off Drew Brees, and Drew Brees doesn't have to be that gunslinger. I mean, they're going to win games. They're going to go deeper in the playoffs if they continue to play this brand of football offensively. So I don't think they should change anything. But selfishly, as Brees owners out there, probably want them to go back to the old
Yep.
game
That
plan.
me. That me. Marcus Mariota, I kind of hit it on earlier, but you shouldn't be playing him. His schedule, as nice as it is, they just don't throw the football. This is a team that wants to run it. They're gonna play ugly for three quarters. They're gonna try and rebound. I mean, they got Houston, Arizona, San Francisco. That should be 3 wins right there, but they're probably going to win 19-17, 23-20. Like, if you own Henry or DeMarco Murray, get ready to feast, because if you look at their running back schedule, they have the best running back schedule the rest of the way. So uh, enjoy your Titans running backs. Avoid Mariota. Delaney is fine because tight end's a mess, but other than that, what about Alex Smith? This Chiefs team is just I just find that derailing train.gif, and that's basically what's happened to the Chiefs. I mean, they have the Jets, they have Oakland, they have the Chargers, they have Miami. Like, it sets up nicely, but I don't know that I can play Alex Smith down the stretch either.
Are they calling for a Pat Mahomes yet in Kansas City? I
They
mean, we're
are.
getting
They are.
close. It's got to be getting close to that time when
Mm-hmm.
they give the rookie a shot and a chance. But yeah, it's been putrid for Alex Smith. I mean, we had to know that it was a mirage early in the season how strong he came on and started off out of the gate. But you know, it's a long race. It's not how you start; it's how you finish. And Alex Smith is just face planted right now. So you can't. I mean, he's killing the value of everybody else. He's sabotaging the whole team basically with it's a trickle down effect with Kareem Hunt, and then you have Tyreek Hill, and if he's not making those big plays, it's he's not given an opportunity to make those big plays with Alex Smith. That's the problem.
Yep. And Kelsey's getting hurt, so Kareem Hunt can't run. It's just ugly. Dakota Prescott, Dak. No Tyron Smith. Tyron Smith came back. He hasn't topped 200 yards in 3 straight weeks. He has 5 interceptions in his last 2 games. I know Prescott was amazing when Zeke was there, when Tyron Smith was there, and everything was there. But are you playing Dak the rest of the way? Because I am. I'm not.
Nope, Dak hit the bench. You know what's crazy is I had to make the decision between him and Jacoby Brissett this past week, and I wound up going with Dak. And then I think after this second performance in a row, just putrid, I'm ready to go ahead and say I'd rather have a Brissett type quarterback in a 2 QB league over Dak, and that's pretty sad to say, but that's how far we've come until the offense can get it going again. And that defense looked terrible too. So without Sean Lee, you're missing your quarterback of the defense on the one side, and then you're missing your best player offensively in Zeke. So it's deadly for both sides.
Yep. We'll talk running backs. Obviously, mentioned the Titans. Philadelphia has the second best schedule for running backs, but I don't know that we know who it is. Like, LeGarrette Blount had another nice game against your Bears. Corey Clement keeps getting worked in. Ajayi is there. Like, are you comfortable starting any of your Eagles running backs?
No, not really. I think at this point you just basically gotta, if you're not deep at running back, you're kind of just hoping, throwing a dart here with one of these running backs that you get the one that scores. Blunt looked good. He looked like he was running hard, and he's always probably gonna have the most touchdown upside, I would say, in that for that team is like the goal line running back there. So that's kind of the burn. And then Jay Ajayi, yeah, it's you're hoping for one big play. And if he doesn't hit that big play, he's not getting the volume. So how can you really trust him at this point? So playing a guy like Marshawn Lynch, you know what you're getting from. In this backfield, you have no idea who's going to be that guy every week.
Yep. I mean, even if you Jamal Williams is the same way. Like, I'd rather have a guy who gets me 20 carries than a guy that gets me 5 or 6. I'd be okay with Blunt. I'm probably avoiding everyone else. KC's got a really nice schedule. Is Kareem Hunt still a guy that you're going to put in your lineups, or do you have to see it before you can trust him again?
I think I've come to a point where, my bias aside, as far as Kareem Hunt, how much I believe in him as a player. I just think that again with that Kansas City Chiefs offense, I've seen enough to just make me bench all their offensive pieces until, just like you said, they show us something. And until then, yeah, I think I'd look for other options
The
like a
one thing,
Rex Burkhead.
yeah, I don't hate that at all. Seattle is number 4, but like there's no one to trust there, so probably run away. Damian Williams got hurt on Sunday, so it might be a lot of Kenyon Drake, which would be really good. Nice to have that consistency. Looking at some bad running back matchups, the Giants, Orleans Darkwa run might be a little bit over. Lynch is there, so we'll see, but he'll get, like we said, he'll get the volume, so that shouldn't be a problem. Probably the same for Carlos Hyde, even though that matchup looks bad. Todd Gurley's an automatic start, and Jamal Williams, it is worth noting that the Packers have the toughest run defense over the next 4 weeks, so or next the playoffs, so 3 weeks. So keep an eye on that, but volume is king, so take a look.
Exactly.
Carolina has the best receiver matchups, and Devin Funchess just keeps progressing, and more work, more volume, looks really good. I think Devin Funchess is an auto play the rest of the way.
He's hashtag good, very good, I should say.
He's hashtag all
in
right.
that offense.
In that offense,
yeah,
without Kelvin Benjamin, it's nice to see him playing well. Obviously, Atlanta's number 2. Mohamed Sanu locked and loaded. Obviously, Julio. Miami is number 3. Are we gonna be trusting Devontae Parker, or is that a offense maybe to avoid and maybe look elsewhere for wide receiver help?
I think I said that last week. It was just a situation I want to totally avoid completely. And Drake's the only guy that you mentioned previously that I would say offensively on that Dolphins team that I would throw out there this week because of the volume that you just mentioned he will be getting with the Williams injury. But that's it for me. I'm staying far, far away from that. Landry, I mean, obviously, I'm throwing Landry out there because you're getting the receptions, but that's it.
And I don't hate Kenny Stills, especially in standard. If you're looking for that big play, like it could be there for sure. Detroit's really nice, top 5. Marvin Jones is a stud. Golden Tate's been good. I can play both of them and feel pretty good. Jacksonville, the Giants, Buffalo. Obviously if the quarterbacks have good matchups, the receivers should do okay. And Pittsburgh set up pretty nicely. So Brown, Martavis, Juju when he comes back should flourish. So look at those matchups. Tight end obviously is really ugly. Arizona has the best schedule, so if you're in deeper leagues, Jermaine Gresham could make a ton of sense. Dallas is number 2. Jason Witten. Your Bears, is Adam Shaheen going to be a guy that you want to play with the way the tight end landscape is, or is that just an offense where you want to get away as far away as you can?
I mean, given how putrid tight end situation is, Adam Shaheen to me is definitely intriguing because I think I know they have chemistry. Trubisky had chemistry with him in the preseason. We saw that, and look to him in the red zone and connect a few times with him. So yeah, I think there's something there between those two guys. I mean, who else is going to catch the damn ball for the Bears? I mean, it's obviously a who's who. I mean, there's nobody really to step up. Nobody has stepped up.
I'm going to go get on a flight right now. I got to go to Chicago and try out for wide receiver, so I'll be back.
Yeah.
Zach Ertz is working on his tight end 1 season. They got a really nice schedule the rest of the way, so Zach Ertz should flourish for those of you that own him. Denver, another one of those situations. They got great matchups, but I don't really know who you trust. So Charles Clay, Bills are have the 6th best schedule against tight ends. Charles Clay could be a guy down the stretch that gives you a solid floor, and that's kind of all you really need. You can't have those goose eggs or those 1-point games from your tight ends. So if you're looking for consistency, Charles Clay is still floating around there. A lot of leagues. We were talking about Greg Olsen, Ron, and Carolina actually has the toughest schedule for opposing tight ends, so it might be a situation to avoid. And Carolina has.
I would say this. I think going back to the kind of the Reed Olsen discussion, I think if Reed plays this week and we hear that Olsen's going to be out, I think I would probably prefer to keep Reed over Olsen. Yeah. But those are two guys that are both big question marks right now.
Totally agree. Atlanta has a tough schedule, so Austin Hooper's probably a guy I'm avoiding. In Minnesota, Kyle Rudolph's been good. He's probably a guy that you have to play just because of consistency, but don't have super high expectations for him. I think it's definitely um, a
Week to week thing. I mean, I think you're
yeah,
probably playing him because he's Kyle Rudolph, and you don't really have anybody else right now that's
no.
consistently producing. So, I mean, Hunter Henry just had a great game. He'll probably disappear again for the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. We were all talking about how we wouldn't play him, and he was actually not. He was actually really good on Sunday. But like you said, he'll step up and then he'll fade away and be a guy that we don't talk about.
Exactly.
You think Alvin Kamara can be the RB1 at the end of the season? He's fighting right now with Le'Veon Bell and Todd Gurley, but he's gaining ground quickly.
I think he can be. It just, again, with Ingram being there, he's going to definitely siphon off some of those touchdowns. So I think the longer runs are probably going to be where Kamara, makes his money for this team. But I mean, if he can keep up this pace, and they continue to feed him like they are, I definitely think he could be. I think he can. With Bell, you're still worried. Not worried, but the workload concerns with Bell, I think there's going to be some weeks where they kind of cut his workload back. We saw that a couple weeks ago. So they're going to do that, I think, given some of these matchups they have coming up.
Yeah. Just pulling up scoring leaders from week 12 to see if there's anybody that pops out. Robbie Anderson, I think, is a must play the rest of the way. He just keeps finding the end zone, keeps doing stuff, and Josh McCown, baby, been pretty good, pretty
Yeah.
good. Cooper
It's
Kupp.
time to start believing in Robbie Anderson.
If we have another week
Crazy.
without Bobby Woods, I think Cooper Kupp's a guy that if you need receiving help, especially if you're in PPR, it is a must add and a must play.
He's getting peppered with targets, Kyle, and it's great. It's great. It's fun to watch. But another deep dive would be Josh Reynolds if the aforementioned Woods stays out for another couple weeks, because Josh Reynolds can score touchdowns. That's one thing he can do, and
He sure can.
he's a nice frame there. So, he scored one last week, got I think 5 targets, 3 catches, something like that, 30 some yards receiving. But yeah, Cooper Kupp's the ad. He should definitely be rostered, I think, in close to 100% in leagues, just in PPR leagues.
Yep, and Reynolds was getting targets. They tried to find him for the touchdown. So, yeah, I think that's a great call, especially in deep leagues. Like, I'm in a 16-teamer, and I think he's a guy that's probably floating around, and that could make a difference over the next couple weeks for sure. Okay, well, I think that's it, Ronald. Any other names you want to throw out before we get out of here?
Just don't go rush to the waiver wire and pick up Buck Allen because he scored a touchdown tonight. Um, no, there's not really any big names that I can think of. We kind of cover all the ones that I would have brought up. I mean, don't go pick up Brett Hundley and hope that he wins get you to the playoffs either. So, just be cognizant of some of these big performances because they're not going to happen again for some of these guys.
100%. How about that Ohio State Buckeyes, baby, beating the old Michigan, the team up north. That was a really nice game on Saturday.
Yeah, going to their house and doing it on their turf, it's even better when they get that opportunity and they come through. So
Yep.
It's going to be interesting to see kind of with the top teams, Bama falling over the weekend and Miami. So I mean, it's going to get really interesting.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way we get in, but hopefully, fingers crossed. It was 2014 when a team that nobody expected to make the college football playoff with a backup quarterback who wears number 7 and replaced J.T. Barrett after he got injured at Michigan, took over. And
Cardell Jones.
Now they're about to do it again. So if they managed to sneak in, look out for my Buckeyes. All right, Ron, this was fun. Make sure you guys go sign up at playdraft.com or download the app. Use promo code FakePigskin. Follow Ron on Twitter at MadDogFF. Follow me, Notorious KRO. Tweet the show at FPAOP. Read all of our awesome stuff on Fake Pigskin. And we will be back on Wednesday. Peace out.